Welcome into the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard Data Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Hello.
It is January 2nd, 2023. Woo.
Yay.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse, where you can subscribe and get access to our Discord server, access to videos early, and more fun stuff. Go check it out. You can get your name in the credits. A few people just scrolled by. Not a lot of news. Light on news. It's still the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the holiday season. So
Holidays.
season. So,
D-A-Z-E. It's a different.
so we don't have a lot to talk about, but we'll get there. We do have tons of games to discuss, though. So Connor, you haven't played a single video game.
That's not true.
Okay. Well, you played. Okay, go ahead.
I played Metal Hellsinger,
Okay.
and that game is fantastic.
Okay.
I enjoy it too much.
Game of the year.
Game of the
All we've played is
game
the
of the
demo.
decade, game of the century, game of the millennium.
That'd be kind of a if I were like a funnier person, that could be hilarious to do like a Game of the Millennium video, and it starts off and like have like a deep dive into Elden Ring for 6 minutes, and then the next one is like the string with a ball and like a wooden cup. Go on for 30 minutes about like the design of the wood ball cup.
Hold on,
game.
wait a minute.
This is my stone
From
cold lock of the week on
1789.
a century.
Yeah, that was last millennium, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. What's larger than a millennium? What's after that?
Half-Life. Oh, wait. Sorry. Larger in that millennium was Half-Life. Never mind. I spoke before you finished your sentence, so.
Connor, what are you? So just do you want to
Metal
talk about
Hellsinger.
Metal Hellsinger?
Oh, I mean, I think we've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah, but all we've played is the demo, so we
Yeah.
shouldn't sit here
Well,
and
I
sing its
mean-
praises too much.
Well, I'll sing its praises about the music.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Good music.
I want the soundtrack. That's it.
Thank you, Connor.
Perfect.
So I've played the Mortuary Assistant. Got that and played it for a while. Kenshi, which is a game that I have had on my Steam wishlist for a long time, finally came out of early access. Warhammer 40k Dark Tide. Richard, is there anything on there that you have played?
No, I haven't. I think I said, did you say it was like, no, none of the stuff that you mentioned I have played. However, I think I did see Kenshi on your wish list.
Yeah, it's been on there for a long time ago. Yeah, so we'll start with Mortuary Assistant. That's what I want to talk about first. Is very good, very spooky. I have to share some details, so it's gonna spoil a few things a little bit. The game is very similar to Phasmophobia, right? So the idea is you're a mortician. You have to embalm the bodies. You're an assistant. You have to embalm the bodies, right? You have to prepare them for burial. So that means you have to like put staples in their mouths and then sew their mouth up, and then you have to put eye caps on their eyes and close their eyes, and you have to
Drain the blood
and
put an embalming fluid,
put a fluid into the body and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's creepy on its own, right? All right. And then what happens is there is a demon that's haunting you, right? And you have to figure out the demon's name and then which body, because you have to embalm like 3 bodies, which body the demon is attached to, and then you burn that body to excise the demon and send them away, right?
Cool.
So that's the basic premise. And from that, you get a very Phasmophobia-like deduction game where you spot clues, you read about each demon, so you kind of know. Like, for example, there's 3 schools for the demons. There's Desolation, and like Incineration, I forget, and one other one. Anyway, each of these demons needs a minor demon to help them break into the world of the living, right?
Got it.
So one of the minor spirits is this guy that is just like the apparatus of a man with red eyes, and he's always like in shadows, right? And that guy only helps like 3 different demons or 4 different demons. So if you see that guy, then you know, process of elimination.
It's going to be those.
It's one of these
specific-
3
got it,
demons
got it.
that's attached to that guy. Exactly. And then each demon also has a name, which is made through like 3 different symbols. And so you may find a symbol that only 2 of those demons have. So it's like, okay, so it's one of these 2 because this symbol that I found
Only belongs to
only
those
associates
two. Got
with
it.
2. So so that's how you kind of process of elimination, stuff like that. And that's solid. That's fun. Outside of that, it does rely pretty heavily on a lot of jump scares, which I'm not always a huge fan of. I think sometimes it can be overdone and it just gets anxiety driven and annoying. And I only played a few sessions, so I don't know how much they rely on it, but some of the scares are really creative and really cool. And the way that they go with the demons is very much, what's the term? Exorcist, right?
Mm-hmm.
The demons are vulgar. They cuss at, they're,
Okay.
I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like they say
Right.
like crazy shit like that because they'll speak through the dead bodies and stuff, and they'll taunt you in different ways. So it's like they cuss and they speak wildly. It's very much like The Exorcist, right? Where it's like a vulgar, disgusting demon that is just like unhinged, that's coming after you, kind of a thing. So that's kind of the approach they take for the demon. But I want to tell you about one scare because I thought it was really cool. So the game takes place in a morgue, right? And you can also go outside of the morgue. So there's a little like grass area around it and a parking lot. Then the morgue itself has a couple rooms, the room where you store the bodies, the room where you do the embalmment, the actual like entranceway with a lobby. And you can walk around all these rooms, look for clues, whatever.
Okay.
So there's also windows. These windows will open, shut. The demons do all kinds of weird, like
Random things to kind of throw
things,
you
right?
off. Okay.
Exactly. So at the beginning of the game, there's a cutscene where it's the main character and her grandmother. And her grandmother's asking her, like, why do you want to be a mortician? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Little scene to set the character, and then you go into the game. So at one point, I was embalming a body, right? And the demon's haunting me, doing different stuff. And I forget the main character's name. It's like Diane or something. Anyway, out of nowhere, I just hear, Diane, it's your grandmother. Please let me in. And I look to the window, and she is right in the window, like her grandmother. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, won't you let your grandmother in, darling? And I'm just like, holy shit, that's terrifying. Mm-hmm. So I obviously ignore her, and she keeps like beckoning, like, hey, won't you open the window and let me in?
Yeah.
And then after a while, it's like, fuck you. And like hits the window really hard and then disappears. So there's a bunch of little tiny moments like that, random scares that really make it cool and emergent because you never know what you're going to run into. And I played a couple sessions and I didn't get the same scare twice. I got a bunch of random stuff. One thing that really freaked me out, there's a computer on a desk that you do different stuff on. You have to like document. It's part of the embalming process, but it's not facing a wall. It's facing the room. So when you log into the computer, the way the game looks is like you see you're still in the character's point of view, looking at a computer screen, right? So you can see, you still have peripheral vision of like the room, right? And at one point I'm on the computer and I just see someone's head coming up behind the computer.
Ooh.
Right? Just real slowly. Like I see hair and then like a forehead, and I press circle because I was playing with a controller. I was like, holy shit, press circle, and it just disappeared right there.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what would have happened if I would have let the thing, like what kind of face would have been.
Right.
And if you didn't notice, like how terrifying if you're just at the computer and you look up and there's a face peering at you from the other side of the computer, terrifying. So a bunch of stuff like that, which is creative. But yeah, a lot of it is jump scares. Some of them is like, you see a figure at the end of the hallway, you walk toward it, and there's a big bang and your character falls or something, and it's like, okay. But I'm looking forward to playing some more. It's very creepy. There are endings, depending on if you guess right or wrong. A lot of work went into the game. There's some really cool secret stuff in the game that if you figure out, that changes things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it some more.
I think one of the I only played the demo for it, but I was gonna say one of the parts that I really liked was the mimic, the pale creature.
Yeah, that's someone I had not encountered yet.
Okay.
So that's one of the minor spirits that you see, and then you know, okay, it's one of these demons.
Yeah. I ran into him, and it was set up like a jump scare, but there wasn't any of the audio clues for a jump scare. So I just turned around, he's in my face, and then phases through a wall. And yeah, that that one elicited a good reaction.
yeah, it is. There is some really genuinely like really good scares in the game. That's like, that was creative, that was good, that was spooky. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Props to the developers.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, jump scares are a thing that I think when utilized correctly, they're really good, really powerful. When overdone, they can just be annoying and kind of cheap. Because I think everybody can think of like jump scares that are really good, that really got them, that are memorable. You got the dogs going through the windows, and Resident Evil is a famous one. There's Alma bear crawling at you through steam and fear, which is one that always gets me even today. Like, even though I know it's coming, I've seen it a million times, it still creeps me out. So there's different, or like there's a famous scene in Fear with the ladder. It's like you get on a ladder and you turn around, and one of the main characters is at the ladder looking at you, and you're like, oh shit. You climb down, and as you get off the ladder, Alma's coming at you from the other direction. That's really creepy. Although that's not really a jump scare. It's not a loud sound. It just happens. But
and it makes you jump.
It does. And
I would consider that a jump scare.
Yeah, probably. Okay, beyond that, I don't have a lot to say about Kenshi. Kenshi is one of those like emergent open world games, kind of like Mountain Blade or whatever, where you start, you have nothing, and it's like, all right, figure out what you want to do. Yeah. It's an RPG, so so
it's not along the same lines as like Valheim or something like that.
No, well, you can build bases and whatnot, but it's not like you're cutting down trees and getting a bunch of different crafting resources. Okay. At least thus far for me. You can mine and get resources, but it's much more like an open world emergent RPG. Okay. So like, for example, I have played probably 4 hours, and what my experience has been thus far is I found a town with guards, right? And I'm by myself. And there are random packs of bandits and slavers that just roam around everywhere. And they'll come after you. So you just have to run away. Okay. Because at a lower level, you can't fight them. And so what I've been doing to get some money and stuff is I found an ore vein, a copper vein near a settlement. So I'll go there and I'll just mine this copper just all day. I'll just get tons of copper. And then if any one of those slaver groups or bandits comes by, they'll chase after me, and I'll just run back to town, and I'll run into the gate, and they'll chase me up to the gate, and the guards there are super powerful, so the guards will just schwack them all real quick.
The old two worlds trick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. So that's basically the bulk of what I've been doing. But you build a base, and there are bounties, there are different factions, where if you attack one faction, you get a negative reputation with that faction, and then you can recruit people to your squad, which is like your team, like an RPG. I don't know how many people you can recruit, but I just recruited my first person. And you can give them orders and have them follow you around. And I think you can even assign them to do things. So like if you have a copper ore near your settlement, you can assign them to go mine that copper and essentially turn them into like a miner. That they mine the copper, and then they take the copper back to a chest at your base or something like that. So you can set it up that way. But yeah, so I'll have to play it a little bit more to figure out, but I'm enjoying it. And yeah, it's been on my early access. I've watched it in early access for a really long time. So I'm excited to get more into it, but I'll stop talking now. Richard, if you want to.
I don't know if you know.
Hey,
I hate video games, so I don't play them.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding. I fooled you.
Got him.
Sorry. No, I've been, the only things I have been playing is Vampire Survivors and Genshin Impact. I haven't had much time to delve into something. I do have some games that are lined up to what I want to do next, but I'm kind of wrestling if I want to. I really want to complete all of God of War. But I know how much more time that's going to take, which will take from the other time for the other games and whatnot. But I feel bad just leaving it. But it does come down to that conversation we always have about it. It's perfectly fine to leave something and come back later to it. So, So I've just been doing a little bit of Vampire Survivors and Genshin Impact still, but I did, although it's not a game, it is something cool I did. I finally was able to set up my Switch, which I modded, to stream my PC to my Switch.
Oh my goodness.
So I can play Steam games on my Switch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Take that,
so,
Valve.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, this is great. So I played Vampire Survivors.
Nice.
I will get to other things. You know, I'm still testing because one hiccup that I'm finding is that it essentially just screen captures your PC, sends it to your Switch through the program. But when I turn my TV off, which my connected to obviously, after a minute or two, the you know, like when your monitor resets its visuals, it like goes to a black screen. It does that on my Switch, and then the resolution is like 4 times bigger than what it should be.
Weird.
And I don't know how to fix that. So I gotta message the guy who created the program to see what, like, because I can't find anybody who has that same issue. Because I'm not just gonna be in my bed while my TV's a full blast, like, you know, all night. But what's that?
Meet the TV.
Well, no, not volume wise, but like visual wise. Like,
throw a blanket over it.
I guess I'll start a fire.
It's worth Vampire Survivors on the Switch.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and when you get into that sort of modding where you're like with the Raspberry Pi or whatever, one, stuff that I have really limited knowledge of, and two, where there's so many little tiny really specific things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
It's just you're not the forums and stuff, you're just not going to find like the specific answers that you need.
Sure, yeah, it's very true. And I think technology is great because at a certain point, if you're in it long enough or just get used to it long enough, you find out that a lot of things are all very similar or will have very similar like fixes and whatnot.
Sure.
So things kind of become easy in that sense. But yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to play soon that I'll try to get to, and I'll try to talk about some new stuff eventually.
I did finish the major portions of God of War's endgame stuff. And I gotta say, I think so it's weird. Ragnarok's combat is definitely harder, like at a baseline, but it's the end game bosses were easier, I feel like. And I don't know if that's because I was a higher level. Like when I beat God of War 2018, I did not have Kratos at the highest rank.
Right.
So like at the highest level, not rank, level. So when I went to fight Sigrun, it was difficult because she was set at a specific level. She doesn't scale to Kratos.
Right.
So I had to go and get more armor and do some more Niflheim. And then I was like, okay, I have stronger armor. I went back and I beat her. And with Ragnarok, I got Kratos to 9 before the end of the game, which I think is
good Lord,
the highest. Yeah, I did basically everything, which I think is the highest.
That sounds like the highest.
The highest rank.
I don't know, but that sounds like
yeah, because all the armor and stuff maxes out at level 9. I don't think you can take it higher. Anyway,
God damn.
And even at level 9, the boss fights are still difficult, but I felt like they were easier than the
God of War 2018.
Yeah, than Sigrun, because there are some points where I was like, I'm just not going to beat. Like there are moments where I just did not think I was ever going to beat Sigrun.
Groa, is that her name?
She's Gna.
Yeah. So she's not as cool, huh? That sucks.
Well, she is awesome.
No, it sounds like you're saying she sucks, man.
No, I'm not saying she sucks. No, she's great, and there's some interesting story bits, and then the final Berserker is also very difficult.
Cool.
I think maybe what made it easier is you now have ways not to stun, but you can to stun enemies before they do really powerful attacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a much easier way. So that once you figure out how to use that, and then you get to the next step where you know the boss moves, and then you know when to stun that boss. You can cancel out entire moves, right?
Yeah.
Out of their move sets because you're ready for them now. So that may make things easier, just the nature of Kratos' weapons. But I'm excited to see what you think of them.
Yeah, no, I do really want to get some.
Are you going to platinum?
I really want to, yeah. It's easy enough to do. I mean, I looked at all of them and I'm like, yeah, this is nothing. It just takes time is all it is. And then there's the eventual, like, New Game Plus that comes out next year or this year. Sorry, it's this year now.
Is it going to come out this year?
Yeah, and it's like, I would like to go through the game again and do everything I didn't get to do with other characters.
Yep. I will definitely. I'll probably go through New Game Plus one day too because it was a really good game.
But yes, the level cap is 9.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I think I barely am at 6.
Okay, yeah, I think end game is around. If you go through without doing a bunch of side stuff, it seemed like you would end the game around 5 or 6. Yeah,
Gotcha.
If you weren't really hitting all kinds of stuff. Okay, we ready to hit the ad? Let's go. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Microsoft says Silent Hill 2 and Final Fantasy 16 are not coming to Xbox because of PlayStation. This is a file from October 31st, so there wasn't a ton of news this week. Eurogamer picked this story up. This was from a response to the CMA's issue statement, which we did talk about a couple months ago on Microsoft's
Xbox
acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and the CMA is sort of the UK's version of like the FTC, I guess, in a sense. But anyway, they put out their issue statement saying, we don't think this is a good idea. Microsoft responded saying, we do think this is a good idea, and here's why. And we haven't talked about it, but I decided we're going to talk about it now because there wasn't a ton of news. So specifically, Microsoft here is responding to the CMA's concerns on game exclusivity and that Xbox would be incentivized to keep games away from PlayStation, which, I'd assume they probably would. Reading from the filing, quote, exclusivity strategies are not uncommon in the games industry, and other market participants have access to their own content. Both Sony's and Nintendo's exclusive first-party games rank among the best-selling in Europe and worldwide. In addition to having outright exclusive content, Sony has also entered into arrangements with third-party publishers which require the exclusion of Xbox from the set of platforms these publishers can distribute their games on. Some prominent examples of these agreements include the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Bloodborne, the upcoming Final Fantasy 16, and the recently announced Silent Hill 2 Remastered. Interesting that they called it a remastered. I just caught that. Anyway, as Eurogamer points out, we know Silent Hill 2 has a 12-month console exclusivity for PlayStation. But that appears to indicate that there's something more there, or that Microsoft thinks it's going to be extended. Again, this is from October 31st, so I haven't seen any updates on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I had something I want to zero in on here for a second. But did we have any other thoughts on the Microsoft-Activision Blizzard thing or the Christmas break? Any other?
I don't think so. I have more to like about this particular situation, but not about the agreement as a whole.
Yeah.
What did you have on this particular situation?
I kind of want everyone to shut up now, because this is a situation or a problem in the gaming industry since forever, since the beginning, and that's its exclusivity with all of their games.
Sure.
Sega in the 90s, instead of crying about not having exclusives they tried to make their own games like constantly. And they made very good games. Of course, Nintendo had better ones, but they also had the benefit of having games like Chrono Trigger, all these great RPGs, the Final Fantasies that never went on to Sega platforms. And then when PS1 came around, everyone jumped ship to PS1 and nobody gave Nintendo any, love. But it's something that is a push and pull and always has been, but it's just, I feel childish that Xbox keeps trying to use this in their proverbial gun as ammo to try to pull the favor towards them in this deal.
Yeah, not a single argument Microsoft has made I have found convincing,
right?
Or like endearing in any way. One thing I
agree.
think we should talk about, and I don't, Brad Sams, Paul Thurrott, I believe his first name is Paul. They cover tech, they cover Microsoft. Brad Sams we talk about occasionally on the show. Friend of the show who answered us on Twitter once. He doesn't know that, but we do. Anyway, the angle they took a couple weeks ago about the FTC, they kind of looked down upon the lawsuit because not necessarily because they thought the deal was great, but more in the context of all the stuff going on with tech and the FTC sort of zeroing in on this. It kind of felt like the FTC was ignoring or slipping by their responsibilities with like maybe quote unquote bigger problems with privacy, Amazon, Meta, what have you. And then they're zeroing in on Microsoft. And whether or not that's true, that's valid, I don't know. I think it's an interesting argument. And I'm not somebody who thinks the FTC is a beacon of regulatory perfection or anything like that.
Of course not.
But when it comes to Microsoft's argument on why it's not a problem, why the Activision Blizzard deal isn't a problem, I haven't seen a single like good argument from them.
Right.
And this is one of them. Another one is that, we're third in market share, and it's like, yeah, third. I don't know. That's it's like saying you're the third richest man on earth.
Right.
Oh, no.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think because plenty of people have been third throughout the years, but also what I feel is if you're complaining about where you're at, then do something about it. What I would like to see done is more first party games being made, which when they made moves to buy Ninja Theory and Obsidian and all the other like smaller publishers, it was like, okay, cool. You guys these are some great moves. This is awesome. And we have seen nothing come out of any of those.
Yeah, we know Cinemas Sacrifice has a sequel.
Hellblade 2, of course.
Point, yeah.
Right, which has been shown and now has been silent for almost 2 years now, I think.
Has it been 2 years?
A year and a half,
that
maybe?
was a launch trailer for the series, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
All right.
But now after this Microsoft-Activision deal, Bethesda was just like, okay, that's a big one. Wow, all right, cool, great games. But the Activision Blizzard deal, now it's kind of become the answer isn't to create good content for ourselves. The answer is to buy other people's content and put it on our console.
Yep.
And that's kind of disheartening because I do like Xbox. I like all of them. I love video games, and I do like Xbox. I like what they're doing with Game Pass. I like what they do with their systems and their accessibility. But this is probably not the way that publicly we want to see them go.
Yeah, and and I think one thing you could bring up is look at the exclusives that Microsoft had. Among the other exclusives, they had Halo and Gears of War at its height, right? And both of those are Gears of War. I didn't play the last Gears of War. I think I remember it getting like decent reviews.
Yeah, I hear it's actually quite good. The last two at least.
But Halo is in a really big lull. And I think you can look straight at Halo and go, you turned it into live service bullshit and it's struggling. And what you had was something a lot better. You had really cool ideas in Halo 5. You had really cool ideas in Halo 4, but you sort of strayed away from Halo 3, which didn't make any sense to me because you wanted to be Call of Duty. That's what Halo 4 was. Halo 5, you threw in microtransactions, had this alternate mode. The gameplay was good, but it was also like a little bit not necessarily easier, but like the hitboxes were bigger and shit like that. And then you get to Halo Infinite, and now you have trouble with the writing. The single player story was really bad, didn't make any sense.
You had an incomplete game.
Yeah, and the multiplayer is fraught with service-based design, and I think for a lot of people that was a huge turnoff. I think I think Infinite has been just a complete failure. Now, I don't know if Microsoft will view it that way, because for Microsoft to view Infinite as a success, it has nothing to do with the quality of the game and has to do with the quality of the retention. So if they find 100 people out there that are spending $10,000 every couple weeks on Halo Infinite, then they have themselves a successful game, and that's all that matters is retention and whales. But I think outside of that perspective, Infinite's been a failure. So I think that's a good point, is when you look at, Microsoft, why don't you try to create something? They had stuff and they just
squandered it.
They just squandered it. So, if I was a part, I don't know. I think once we have Phil Spencer on the show, I think one good question is, hey, you're talking about bringing all these new games in and stuff like this. Who's to take responsibility for the games that haven't worked? What happened? I mean, Sony has all these exclusive games, but that's not the way it always was. It wasn't like Microsoft had 0 exclusives. So what happened? Mm-hmm. But in the last 15 years, and whose responsibility is that? And does it really help anything by just complaining? Probably not.
It is two different, you mentioned about all the franchises they had and they kind of squandered, and Sony has all these franchises that they're doing very well with, and you can at the baseline look at both of them and see that the Final Fantasy series specifically has been on PlayStation since 1997.
Sure.
And what they've done throughout the years is absolutely cultivated it and leaned into the strengths that it had with the fan base that it retained. And if you look at Halo, and you look at Halo Infinite, you look at Gears of War, main components are multiplayer, which is now rife with like microtransactions. Gears of War is not as bad. At least nobody complains about it from what I see. But with like PlayStation 5, like all their exclusives, they are strictly single player experiences that are complete titles with no other frills to them for the most part. So I think that there's a problem with cultivation. Xbox sees money, probably. Microsoft sees money.
Oh, they all do, sure.
They all do, yes. But Microsoft obviously sees money like front and center, especially when it comes to their franchises. Whereas like PlayStation is, gets the money, but they're more of a cultivator, it seems like.
And I think another interesting point to bring up, talking about developing new IPs, is let's go through, if we just bought a PS5 and we're getting all the big exclusive games. We're buying Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Spider-Man, what's another
Ratchet
one?
Ratchet and
Clank, Uncharted. So there, we'll stop at that 6, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe half of that have started in the past decade. Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon. Yeah. God of War 2018 was a reboot. God of War's been around longer than 10 years, but I think the reboot, the soft reboot could kind of count as starting a couple years ago. Uncharted was 2009, the first one? Or 2008?
2007.
Was it 2007?
It was a launch title. I'm pretty certain.
Well, we won't count Uncharted then. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that PlayStation has started new IPs, and all those new IPs have been extremely successful. And those new IPs have come out the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, right? It's not like they're 20-year staple franchises. But now you see Aloy's face plastered all over the place. Yeah. You see, Kratos and Atreus all over the place. You'll see Jin all over the place when Ghost of Tsushima 2 starts to get revved up, which may be another 3 years or so. So I don't know, why hasn't that happened at Xbox? What's been going on? We're all fans of Game Pass, and I think that's you got to give Xbox credit for that. But I think on some level, and maybe this is the point we've been building to, is they have put themselves in this position. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think it's a good argument to say, we don't have any exclusives, and Nintendo has all these exclusives, and Sony has all these exclusives. I don't think that's a good argument anyway, but even if it were, the only reason you're in this situation is because you've handled your exclusives poorly, and you just haven't done much to, as you said, to cultivate them. Yeah. So, stop complaining. Make some games.
About they pull themselves
make
up
Cortana
by the bootstraps.
Not evil. Can we do that? Can Cortana not be a mass murderer? Anyway, Richard.
GamesIndustry.biz has their year in numbers for 2022. So we're going to go over numbers. I like numbers.
A huge
Everybody
graphic.
likes numbers. Yeah. An infographic with tons of info compiled from Newzoo, NPD Group, Sensor Tower, and a bunch of other market research places. Total market value was $184.4 billion. That is a minus 4.3% year over year or year over year. Yeah, blab. 51.8 billion on console games were spent. $92.2 billion on mobile games. Oof, that's a lot.
Yeah.
$38.2 billion on downloaded boxed PC games. $2.3 billion on browser PC games. Farmville doesn't bring in as much cash as it used to, I guess. $10.7 billion on global physical game revenue. $173.8 billion in global digital game revenue. Holy crap, really?
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's what they said.
The top selling boxed game in Japan was Splatoon 3, and in the UK was FIFA 23. Of course it was.
Mild shock.
Yeah, mild shock. And then we're going to run down the top 10 in the US here. You want to go 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
I'll let you decide. It's
5 to 10, 4 to 1.
No, don't do that. We're not going to do that.
Let's go. All right. So at number 1, of course, no surprise, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. At number 2, we have Elden Ring. Number 3 is Madden 23. Number 4 is Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. That's a great.
I'm surprised that made the top 10 or top 5 rather.
You're right. No, me too. But I think what helped is the redesign of the whole, how the game operates. So number 5 is God of War Ragnarok. Number 6, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Number 7, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Number 8, Horizon Forbidden West. Number 9, FIFA 23. And number 10, MLB The Show 2022.
Yeah. Again, we have a couple.
Sports games always kill.
We have a couple. Yeah, well, and it's the games with large casual markets.
Yeah.
Right. Baseball is already like of the 4 major sports. Baseball is a comforting number 3 spot on that popularity list. And no one really likes basketball. They just like the players. Like, because the NBA is just the Instagram of professional sports leagues. So, like,
you're right. Yeah.
Like nobody knows who the hell plays for the Charlotte Hornets, which aren't even a team.
They aren't a team.
but
Muggsy Bogues and Larry Johnson.
That's impressive.
Alonzo Mourning. They're my favorite team growing up. Or one of my, well, my brother's fairate team growing up, vicariously my favorite team.
An interesting little Richard tidbit there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but get back to the point. So it is interesting to see MLB The Show up there, because I would not have guessed that they were going to be in the top 10 in the US, because while they're a popular sport, it's not. But that's probably helped by it losing exclusivity to PlayStation.
Correct.
Because MLB The Show 22 was the first. That was the first the show on multiple consoles, right?
It was the first show on Switch. It was the second show on Xbox.
Oh, okay. And I got it for the Switch, and it runs fine on the Switch.
It does what you want it to.
Elden Ring number 2.
It's over 17 million, I think, right?
That's I really like that. And Elden Ring was like 6 in Japan.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just one of those things that makes me wonder. It's like, if I'm an executive and I see that, what does that tell you about the games industry, about the market, about... Because I don't think you're ever going to see another Elden Ring, like the performance-wise, because I think partially it was a large number of people never have playing a Souls-like before and getting into it for the first time,
right? And
it was the most accessible Souls-like that's ever been made. That's helped. I don't think all those people have been turned into... I'm buying
diehard fans, right?
Buying,
yeah,
whatever.
Absolutely not.
But at the same time, I think there is a level of don't underestimate the games market. Make something interesting, make something good, make something different, and people will love it and people will buy it, and you'll be super successful.
The movie industry should learn a thing or two about that.
The movie industry, well, they know. They just don't. They don't care to try.
I'm not down on the game at all or anything, but I am actually surprised that Horizon's on the top 10 list.
Sure, yeah.
And that comes from...
And this is physical, I think. Let me look at the thing again. I believe it may have been physical, but keep talking.
And that comes from the perception...
Yeah.
That comes from the perception of this year with Horizon. Of course, Horizon released a week. Wow. A week before Elden Ring.
Yeah, sure.
And was promptly never talked about again.
We're the first people to talk about it.
And it deserved to be. I mean, it was talked about again during, Game Awards season.
Sure.
Rightfully so. It is a very good game.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, because of, I think, Elden Ring's chaotic success, just people seem to not talk about it. And so it gave this perception of something that not necessarily didn't sell well. Very obviously it sold well, but it's just, I don't know.
It definitely, there was definitely a thought that it was just sort of forgotten about.
Yeah. Right. Because
so much happened with Elden Ring, and then God of War Ragnarok came out, and Ragnarok was mind blowing. And yeah, like as I started to think about, like, I completely forgot Carrie Ann Moss had one of the best performances in a video game this year until I remembered Forbidden West, and I was like, oh yeah, she's in that. Oh yeah, she was really interesting for a little bit, and then the ending gets weird. But anyway, yeah, so that like completely forgot. Or like when you brought up how good it looks, like I was like, oh yeah, you know what? It was stunningly gorgeous, and I just completely looked past. One thing I saw in this infographic that I thought was interesting was the games that were talked about on Twitter versus it was like the most viewed trailers.
Oh right,
like that.
Yes.
The top 10 most viewed like trailers, ads, commercials, whatever. Like 4 or 5 of them are Fortnite. I don't even know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the most,
I know what it was.
And in the top 10 games talked about on Twitter, and this isn't necessarily scientific.
Sure.
Fortnite is nowhere near. Is not on the top 10, right? But I think that's still interesting. Namely because kids aren't on Twitter, but kids sure as hell are on YouTube.
Yeah.
And one of those influences the market more than the other one, and it's not Twitter. So if we need any more evidence that Twitter should just die and everyone should ignore it, it's that Fortnite isn't talked about on it, and if Fortnite's not talked about on it, no one's using it except nerds who yell about stuff.
That's why I use Twitter, because Fortnite doesn't exist there. It's my safe haven.
Touche. Anyway, is there anything else we want to talk about with this infographic?
I was looking at the the best-selling box games a year for Japan, and only one of them isn't a Switch game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you have Splatoon 3.
Oh, Elden Ring.
Both Pokemons, Kirby, Switch Sports, Mario Kart 8, Minecraft Switch Edition, Mario Party Superstars, and then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then 10th place, Elden Ring.
Wonderful.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, no, God damn Nintendo, dude. I'm thinking about that list, and it's like they only have. It sounds always condescending when someone comes in and they're like, "Do you have any 64 games?" And I'm like, "Yes, but whatever you're gonna ask me, I don't have it," because it's always Mario Party 1, Mario Party 2, Mario Party 3, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, like Smash Bros, Golden. It's the same games over and over, and you can tell by that list 9 out of the 10. Mario, Kirby, Mario.
8 out of 10. One was Minecraft.
Oh, sorry.
And the other one was Elden Ring.
But you get
80%
the idea. And it's not. It's just infuriating because it's just those games are so good. They're very good, but it's just infuriating because it's like that's all you have. Like, do something else, please.
And just to take that, just circle back to talking about companies or like Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo with first party games. Nintendo is the opposite end of the spectrum from Microsoft. If Microsoft is 0 first party exclusive, Microsoft is 99.9 repeating first party exclusives.
Yeah, Nintendo, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like they have a factory where they have all the Nintendo characters in some sweatshop somewhere. Every few years, they're just cranking out new versions of old games. Luigi's like, how about a new Luigi's Mansion? Shut up, Luigi. Oh, no, there is a new Luigi's Mansion, isn't there? Yeah.
A couple years ago, yeah.
Okay, never mind. Nintendo's the worst company on earth, and the Switch is the worst console, so I obviously don't play it a whole lot. Breath of the Wild, 7 out of 10. I mean, come on, right, guys? Anyway, don't want to get bomb threats. Are we ready for tidbits?
Tidbits, yes, sir.
A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the tidbits.
Got 2 tidbits today. All right, let's do it. Destiny's oh my God, today. Destiny 2 is looking to have a premium subscription service.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Okay, hold on. I'm holding.
Mm-hmm.
Around a week ago, news hit that some data miners found what appeared to be code referring to a new subscription service for Bungie's Destiny 2, famously free-to-play game. They found like banner ads for it and stuff like that. Basically, the content in the subscription service would provide things like access to the story-based DLCs, exclusive gear, other perks as you would when you create a subscription-based service. Understandably, of course, it's another worry about free-to-play games. Like, it's free-to-play is nice at first, but slowly monetization begins to creep in at some point in many different ways. Well, thank goodness none of that is happening, because the data miners who revealed the information also revealed that it was all a prank.
Oh my God.
They were simply trolling. But it's also an unfortunate circumstance because the data miners who pulled the prank were very well known for providing good information.
So you've killed your credibility.
Right. And no one within the community to provide your accurate information. It is fun to pull a prank, as long as it's nice, but when you play with a community who is already like suspicious of free to play like practices, probably turn out pretty ugly. But thankfully it's not true, but it does kind of suck for those data miners.
Well, it's just like I don't know. Can we not do that? Is there anything else you can do in the world? Can we not create an elaborate hoax that there's a secret church level in freaking
Near Automata.
Thank you. You knew what I was saying. You were just waiting for me.
Because it was rad. That was a cool story. That was
interesting.
Yeah. I think that was a tiny bit different.
Sure. Maybe. Yeah. Probably shouldn't. It's not. It was. Sure. What's your next tidbit?
Oh, okay. Konami is teasing new developments for a familiar series and unannounced new projects in the works. Famitsu Magazine revealed a statement from Konami about their intentions for this upcoming year that should excite some fans of random franchises. We don't know which ones yet because they didn't say anything. Konami said, quote, "This year is the year of the rabbit, so we are planning power-ups and new developments for familiar series with the aiming of leaping even further." Nice pun. Additionally, we're deeply and quietly progressing on new project, in parentheses S, that we have yet to announce to you all. Konami is leaping forward, so by all means, please stay tuned. I know that was kind of a useless tidbit, but
no, I think they've got all the IPs that one could ask for.
I agree. Yeah, they have a lot of them. They just
have to. I don't know what went on over the past 7 years at Konami. They got really into pachinko, and
everyone's into pachinko. I saw today there's a Persona 5 casino game.
Yeah. Kind of like how there's like Star Wars pinball.
Right. Yeah. But it's like somebody in the comments was like, this is because everybody in the comments was like, oh my God, this is so sick. But it's like, well, that's how your grandma feels when she sees an Elvis casino. Like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just catering to us now.
That's depressing to think about.
A little bit. But
whatever went on at Konami, it was shameful and stupid, and I'm glad that they're finally starting to work. And Richard, I hope you get a Symphony of the Night remake with hundreds of hours of new content, and it's just amazing.
I've been thinking about it recently. I kind of want a Harmony of Despair remake. Harmony of Despair was it was a 6-player multiplayer Castlevania, where they like stitched together a ton of the levels from the games and put them into a huge map.
Sounds awesome.
And like the 6 players would start on different things or different areas, and you would go through the game like you would a normal Castlevania, but the enemies would drop loot that you'd equip and stuff like that from the games, and then you'd all make your way to the center where you fight the boss.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And then the boss would, like, depending on which boss and which level, like there was the puppeteer boss who's like a head of a puppet, and he has spider arms, and he like crawls across the entire level, and you have to like chase him to fight him in the entire level. And then there's like another boss who destroys the stage because he's bigger than the level is.
Oh my God.
And it is a very cool game. It's backwards compatible on Xbox One.
That sounds awesome.
It's a very cool game. But anyways,
I hope they remake the one that came out for the phones.
Yeah, I
just kidding.
They did. It's on Apple Arcade.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought there was one that was like lost.
Oh, Order of Shadows. I learned what it was called. Order of Shadows.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see. But anyways, I had another tidbit, but I couldn't really like put it into like a good story. But GPU sales are down 80%.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like they've hit an all-time low because of the like incremental, like Apple does, like the incremental, like,
yeah,
like they release one every year, but it's just incremental, like,
sure,
power upgrades, nothing, but also crypto crash. So Ethereum and Bitcoin, like
Yeah. Well, that has helped. I'm not an expert.
The chip shortage has kind of like died down a bit too.
There's been like multiple coinciding events, but the crypto economy crash has helped because you mint crypto with GPUs, because they have high processing power or whatever. So that's how you can get away with mint farms where it's just all these graphics cards hooked up and stuff like that, and it's a dystopia. But
just a bit.
Once that went down, graphics card prices followed. And that whole market's really complicated, and I'm not going to pretend to understand it all. But I also know NVIDIA's 40 series hasn't been super popular. There was problems with, like, for a while I was following it a little bit. There was problems with the main like power cable that runs from the card to the power supply, and the thing was burning. Like straight melting on the card itself.
Too much power or too much heat
too much
generating?
Heat, but that would ruin the card because your outlet for power would just get melted away, and it would destroy the cable and it would destroy the outlet. So it was like a huge problem.
Oh yeah, they recalled those.
Yeah, with one of the 40 series cards, and that's a massive problem. And the 40 series cards are huge, so you have to have like a minivan sized computer,
full size tower.
Yeah. But I think I don't know enough about the economics of GPUs to tell you whether or not they should be, although I do know enough to say that the crypto economy should crash, should go away, and shouldn't mess with GPUs ever again. So we'll stick with that.
Agreed.
Is that it for tidbits?
That's it for tidbits, yes, sir.
Anything else anybody wants to say before we end this sucker early? Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.